I'm going to move on at this point to Cordell's presentation. We can pick up any other questions towards the end if you have any more around segmentation, but I'd like to make sure that we get on and cover Cordell's presentation. So Cordell's Global Creative Director up at an agency called Up There Everywhere, and also is one of the board directors of the DMA. So I'm going to hand over to you, Cords, to pick up the creative ideas section now.
Okay, thanks, Kate. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Big thumbs up. That's the right answer. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all today. I'm going to talk, as the title says, about how to develop your creative idea. And if we go to the next slide, please, Lisa, just a little bit of context so you have a little bit of an idea what's coming. I want to talk a little bit about the importance of big creative ideas. I want to give some examples. They're actually 3 well-known examples, and they're not necessarily B2B, but they're ways of stimulating some ideas. I want to talk to you about kickstarting your creative campaign by talking about some positioning Kickstarters, some creative Kickstarters, some media Kickstarters. So these should be fairly obvious, but there's nothing wrong with them having a little reminder so that you actually get going and don't get too afraid of the white space. Also, I just wanted to actually end my little bit on a little bit of about judging the creative idea as well, because both Sarah, Scott, and the rest of the team have talked a lot about making sure that not only do you come up with lots of ideas in the first place, which is what my bit's about, but making sure that you judge it against the brief and make sure it's sort of relevant. So my bit will be more about pushing everything out in as many directions as possible, but then ultimately you still have to hone it down to the brief that you're applying it to. So next slide, please. So what I wanted to do, as I say, is just talk about the first bit, is the importance of big creative ideas. And what I've sort of written down here, you know, why big creative ideas important? Well, what they do, they should do, is demonstrate what the brand, the company, the product stands for. They should actually solve a client's problems or challenges by giving their customers a benefit. Scott talked a lot about customers. Well, give them a benefit. That's what your brand should be about in some shape or form. And also, if the creative idea is big enough, it should actually do a lot of these things like inform, inspire, enlighten, motivate, entertain, change behavior. And, you know, ultimately, is to make sure, you know, a big creative idea should make sure that your product, your service, or the brand stands out so that the customers put your brand at the top of their consideration list. So let's have a look at 3 examples of a big creative idea. Again, these should be ones that you're fairly familiar with, but I want to go to the core of them so that you understand why they're big ideas and why they sort of they sort of work. So I think these campaigns are really good because they're strong thoughts which enable the brands and the agencies to create multiple executions that, in these instances, stand the test of time. So this first example is obviously Nike. Nike have the very, very familiar and well-known tagline of "Just Do It," and they believe that everyone is an athlete. So their mission is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. And as we all know, they have a large catalog of products and have a strong product portfolio. But I think when it comes to advertising and marketing, the way they sort of retain their customers is by using lots of different media and places, anything from traditional TV and cinema ads through to events and innovative use of digital technology, but also in some instances partnerships with companies like Apple. So I think it's really nice that they're able to do everything from sponsoring edgy athletes to developing fitness apps in partnership with Apple, for instance. So I wanted to make to talk about this because those are considerations that you have. Yes, there may not be lots of budget to from Sarah to do what you want to do, but consider these areas that even if they're on a smaller scale as well, they could be ways of taking the brand forward as well. So have a think about what Nike do and why, you know, a big thought, leaving people with a big thought about like just do it is really, really important. Next slide, please. Another big campaign idea is Dove's campaign for real beauty. Again, this is another campaign that has been going on for many, many years, and it's clearly a very strong idea as it's sort of been going on for so long. I think when I was at the agency who conceived this, I didn't work on it, but I was at the agency who conceived this idea at the time, whenever it was about, gosh, nearly 20 years ago. And it was at a time when a lot of personal care companies were, and still do in some instances, advertise unrealistic appearances that cause women to compare themselves, you know, to what are perceived to be unachievable standards. And the campaign started off with posters featuring images of real, diverse people. And now it's moved on to the fact that, you know, we consume and use social media a hell of a lot. So that it means we can actually focus on mainstream issues and be featured on the mainstream news and stimulate debate around issues. So it's taken this whole idea of real beauty and really sort of pushed it out throughout the media. It's actually elevated the debate and issues to such an extent that it gets featured and talked about on mainstream news. And it's created its own sort of word of mouth beyond the budget that is actually sort of spending as well, even though that in itself is quite considerable. So again, when you think of a campaign like that, how can we really bring the entry platform to life, and in some respects, as a here, get it sort of talked about in a really meaningful and big way. Next campaign, please. We're all familiar with the meerkats. I think what's lovely about this is that one of the things that you can look at maybe to see whether, and I don't know whether as a client, Sarah would be happy with this, but you may want to consider whether a character or an individual or a person of sorts is the front of the band, the brand. So let's, you know, it's something that's worth looking at. Again, compare the market just coming out of the brand itself, a comparison website, and there it is, just playing on the confusion that people might have between, you know, the words market and meerkat. And they now have these two wonderful mascots in Alexander